Lisa Grant checked her scanner one more time as her small scout ship moved through the dark space near Proxima Station. The green dots on her screen showed nothing but empty space and distant stars. She had been on patrol for 6 hours now, and everything looked normal. Her mission was simple: fly around the station and make sure no enemy ships were hiding nearby. The coffee in her cup had gone cold hours ago, but she drank it anyway. Space patrols were boring most of the time, but that was good. Boring meant safe. Safe meant the people on Proxima Station could sleep without worrying about alien attacks. Lisa had been doing these patrols for 3 years now, and she liked the quiet. Her ship was small but fast. It had good sensors and a decent weapon system. More importantly, it had stealth technology that made it hard for enemies to spot. Lisa could see them coming long before they saw her. That was the plan anyway. The alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed across her control panel. Her scanner showed 5 large ships dropping out of hyperspace directly behind her. They were Zephyrian vessels, sleek black ships that looked like giant insects with metal wings. Lisa had seen pictures of them in military briefings, but never this close. Her hands moved across the controls without thinking. Training kicked in. She pushed the engines to maximum power and turned hard to the left. The scout ship shook as it changed direction. She needed to get away from the enemy ships and warn the station. The communication system crackled to life. She spoke quickly into the microphone. "Proxima Station, this is Scout 7. 5 Zephyrian ships have entered the system. I repeat, 5. Enemy vessels detected. Prepare defenses." But before she could hear a reply, the enemy ships fired. Green energy beams shot past her ship, missing by inches. Lisa rolled her ship to the right and dove toward a nearby asteroid field. If she could hide among the rocks, she might have a chance. More weapon fire lit up the space around her. The Zephyrians were fast, and their aim was getting better. One beam hit her rear shields, making the whole ship shake. Warning lights flashed, showing shield damage. She was in trouble. Lisa pushed deeper into the asteroid field, weaving between the floating rocks. Her small ship was more agile than the big enemy vessels. She could use that advantage. Behind her, the Zephyrians split up to surround her. They were smart hunters. She reached into her jacket and touched a small device hidden in the inner pocket. It was the size of a coin and completely smooth. The neural implant had been surgically placed under her skin 6 months ago. Only a few dozen Earth military personnel had them. The technology was still experimental and highly classified. Lisa pressed the device through her jacket. A small light blinked once. The implant was now active and sending out a signal. The signal was weak and used a frequency that most alien sensors could not detect. But human military equipment would pick it up clearly. The implant would broadcast her exact location across 50 light years of space. An enemy ship appeared directly in front of her. She had been so focused on the device that she had not seen it coming. The Zephyrian vessel was huge up close. Its black hull was covered in spikes and weapon ports. Green lights glowed along its sides like evil eyes. Lisa pulled hard on the controls, trying to avoid a collision. Her ship scraped against an asteroid, sending sparks flying. The impact damaged her left engine. Her speed dropped by half. Behind her, the other enemy ships were closing in. She fired her weapons at the ship in front of her. The red laser beams hit its shields but did no real damage. The Zephyrian ship was too heavily armored. Her small weapons were like throwing pebbles at a tank. But she kept firing anyway. The enemy ship turned to face her. Its main weapon began to glow with green energy. Lisa knew what was coming. She put all remaining power into her engines and tried to escape. But it was too late. The green beam hit her ship directly. Every system went dark. The engines died. Life support failed. Emergency power kicked in, but it would not last long. Her ship was drifting helplessly through the asteroid field. The Zephyrian ships surrounded her like sharks circling wounded prey. Lisa sat in her pilot's seat, watching them on her failing sensors. She was not afraid. Fear was something she had learned to control during her military training. But she was angry. Angry that she had been caught. Angry that she might not see her family again. A mechanical voice spoke through her communication system. The words were in broken English. Human vessel, you will surrender now. Prepare to be boarded. Do not resist or you will be destroyed. Lisa looked at her weapon controls. She could set her ship to explode when the aliens came aboard. It would kill her, but it would also take some of them with her. Many human pilots had made that choice when faced with capture by the Zephyrians, but she did not reach for the self-destruct button. The neural implant was still sending its signal. Earth Command needed time to receive the message and respond. If she died now, the signal would stop. The Zephyrians would disappear back into space and attack somewhere else. She had to stay alive. She had to give Earth time to send help. Even if it meant becoming a prisoner of the most violent alien race in the galaxy, the first Zephyrian ship moved close to her vessel. She could see its docking bay opening like a mouth full of metal teeth. Robotic arms reached out to grab her ship and pull it inside. Lisa turned off her weapon systems and put her hands up where the aliens could see them. The robotic arms pulled her ship into the enemy vessel. The docking bay doors closed behind her with a sound like thunder. Lisa was now inside a Zephyrian ship surrounded by aliens who considered humans to be nothing more than food, but the neural implant was still working, still sending its signal across the darkness of space, still buying time for humanity to respond. Lisa smiled grimly as she heard the aliens cutting through her ship's hull. They thought they had won. They had no idea that their real fight was just beginning. The Zephyrian soldiers that dragged Lisa from her ship were 7 feet tall and covered in hard black armor that looked like insect shells. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, but she could see their eyes glowing red through the dark visors. They moved with quick, jerky motions like giant spiders. Their clawed hands gripped her arms tight, enough to leave bruises. Lisa did not struggle as they pulled her through the corridors of the alien ship. The walls were made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols glowed along the ceiling, casting eerie shadows. The air smelled like chemicals and decay. She could hear clicking sounds coming from hidden speakers. The Zephyrians were talking to each other in their own language. They brought her to a large chamber deep inside the ship. The room was circular, with no windows. The walls were covered in screens showing star maps and weapon displays. In the center stood a chair that looked like it had been designed for torture. Metal bands hung from the armrests and leg supports. Wires and tubes connected to strange machines that hummed with power. Commander Vex entered the room as the soldiers forced Lisa into the chair. He was larger than the others, and his armor was decorated with symbols that she guessed showed his rank. When he removed his helmet, his face was nightmare fuel. His head was triangular with multiple eyes arranged in rows. Sharp mandibles clicked together when he spoke. His skin was the color of old blood. Vex spoke in broken English that sounded like grinding metal. Human female, you are now prisoner of the Zephyrian Empire. You will tell us about your defenses. You will tell us about your weapons. You will tell us about your colonies. If you cooperate, your death will be quick. Lisa looked directly at him without showing fear. I am Commander Lisa Grant of the Earth Defense Force. My service number is 7749 Alpha. That is all I am required to tell you. Vex made a sound that might have been laughter. Your military codes mean nothing here, human. We have broken stronger species than yours. We have conquered 37 worlds. We know how to make creatures talk. The metal band snapped shut around Lisa's wrists and ankles. The restraints were tight but not painful yet. She could feel sensors pressing against her skin. The machines around the chair began to hum louder. Lights flashed on the control panels. Vex walked to a console and pressed several buttons. This device reads your biological responses. It knows when you feel pain. It knows when you feel fear. It knows when you lie. We have used it on thousands of prisoners. None have resisted for more than 1 hour. Lisa felt a small shock run through her body. It was not painful, just uncomfortable. The machine was testing her responses. She kept her face blank and her breathing steady. The neural implant hidden under her skin was still working, still sending its signal into space. Every second she stayed alive was another second for Earth to respond. The torture began slowly. First came heat that made her skin burn, then cold that made her bones ache, electric shocks that made her muscles twitch. The machine was learning how her body worked, finding her weak points. Mapping her nervous system, Vex watched the readouts on his screens. Your pain tolerance is higher than most humans, but that will not save you. We will increase the intensity until you break. Tell us about Earth's defenses, and this will stop. Lisa gritted her teeth as the pain increased. The only thing I'll tell you is that you made a mistake attacking us. Humanity doesn't forgive. We don't forget. And we sure as hell don't abandon our own. More machines came online. Needles extended from the chair and pierced her skin. She felt chemicals being injected into her bloodstream. Her vision blurred and her heart rate spiked. Whatever they were, giving her was designed to make her more sensitive to pain. The burning sensation in her skin became a fire. The cold felt like ice crystals forming in her veins. Vex leaned closer to her. His breath smelled like rotting meat. The chemicals will make everything worse, much worse. Your pain receptors are now 3 times more sensitive. Even a gentle touch will feel like being cut with knives. Last chance, human. Tell us what we want to know. Lisa felt sweat running down her face. The pain was becoming harder to ignore, but she had trained for this. Every military officer learned to resist torture. She focused on her breathing. She thought about her family back on Earth. She remembered her oath to protect humanity, no matter what the cost. Go to hell, she whispered. Vex pressed more buttons. The machines roared to life. Pain shot through every nerve in Lisa's body. It felt like being burned alive and frozen solid at the same time. She bit down on her tongue to keep from screaming. Blood filled her mouth. The taste was metallic and warm. The torture continued for what felt like hours. Vex asked the same questions. Over and over, where were Earth's military bases? How many ships did they have? What were their defensive capabilities? Lisa answered with her name and service number. Sometimes she recited poetry she had learned in school. Once she started singing an old song her grandmother had taught her. The Zephyrians brought in new machines, devices that could stimulate specific parts of her brain, tools that could make her feel like her bones were breaking without actually harming her, technology that could create any sensation they wanted. Pain became her entire world, but through it all the neural implant kept working. Its signal was weak but constant. Somewhere in the darkness of space, human sensors were picking up the transmission. Military computers were calculating her location. Fleet commanders were planning rescue operations. Admiral Morrison and his battle group were loading supplies and preparing for combat. Lisa knew none of this. She only knew that she had to keep the aliens busy. She had to buy time for whatever help might be coming. Even if help never came, she would not give these monsters the information they wanted. She would die before she betrayed her species. Vex studied the readouts with growing frustration. Most prisoners broke within the first hour. This human female had been tortured for 3 hours and still refused to talk. Her vital signs showed maximum pain response, but her will remained unbroken. It was unprecedented. Increase power to level 7. He ordered his technicians. The machines screamed as more electricity poured through Lisa's body. But she was still conscious, still defiant, still buying precious time for humanity to respond. The pain had become something beyond description. Lisa's body felt like it was being torn apart and rebuilt over and over again. The Zephyrian torture machines had been running for 4 hours now. Every nerve ending screamed in agony. Her muscles twitched uncontrollably. Sweat mixed with blood on her face, but she was still conscious, still alive. Still refusing to break, Commander Vex stood in front of the monitoring station watching, her vital signs with growing amazement. The readouts showed pain levels that should have killed most living beings. Her heart rate was dangerously high. Her blood pressure was through the roof, yet somehow she remained defiant. "This is impossible," Vex muttered to his chief technician. "No creature can withstand this much pain. The machine must be malfunctioning." The technician checked his instruments twice. "All systems are working perfectly, Commander." The human is experiencing maximum pain response. But her brain patterns show no signs of breaking. She is still resisting. Vex had tortured prisoners from dozens of different species. He had broken proud warriors from the Centauri system. He had made telepathic beings from Rigel beg for mercy. He had reduced the toughest soldiers in the galaxy to whimpering children. But this human female was different. She was enduring agony that should have been impossible to survive. Lisa focused on her breathing, in and out, in and out. It was the only thing that kept her sane. The torture chair had become her entire world. Nothing existed beyond the pain. But somewhere deep inside her mind, she held on to one thought. Help was coming. The neural implant was still working. Earth had received her signal by now. She thought about her family. Her parents who had raised her to be strong. Her sister who had always looked up to her. Her nephew who was just learning to walk. They were all counting on her to protect them. She could not fail them no matter what these monsters did to her. Tell us about your weapons, Vex demanded for the 100th time. Tell us about your defenses. Your silence only makes your suffering worse. Lisa opened her eyes and looked at him. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it was steady. I told you already. Name and service number, that's all you get. Vex slammed his fist on the console. Bring in the neural probe. If she will not talk, we will take the information directly from her brain. 2 technicians wheeled in a device that looked like a metal spider. Thin wires extended from its center body. Each wire ended in a needle that glowed with blue energy. Lisa had heard about neural probes in military briefings. They could read memories directly from a person's brain. Most subjects went insane from the experience. The probe moved on mechanical legs until it was positioned above Lisa's head. The wires descended slowly toward her skull. She could feel heat radiating from the needles. In a few seconds they would pierce her brain and steal every secret she knew, but Lisa had trained for this too. Deep in her mind she began to recite the blocking techniques she had learned. Military psychologists had developed ways to resist mental invasion. It required incredible focus and mental discipline. She had to create barriers in her own mind, walls that the probe could not penetrate. The needles pierced her skull. Pain exploded through her brain like lightning. But Lisa fought back. She imagined steel doors slamming shut in her mind. She built walls of concrete and metal around her memories. She created false corridors that led nowhere. Her thoughts became a maze that even she could barely navigate. The probe pushed deeper. It searched for information about Earth's defenses. It looked for star charts showing human colonies. It hunted for military codes and weapon specifications. But all it found were mental barriers. Lisa's training and sheer willpower had turned her mind into a fortress. Vex watched the neural probe's displays with growing anger. What is happening? Why can we not access her memories? The technician monitoring the device shook his head. Her brain is rejecting the probe commander. She has somehow blocked access to her memories. I have never seen anything like this. Lisa screamed as the probe increased its power. The pain in her head was beyond anything she had ever experienced. It felt like her brain was being boiled. But she held on to her mental barriers. She reinforced the walls in her mind. She would not let them steal humanity's secrets. Hours passed. The neural probe worked frantically trying to break through her defenses. Sometimes it found small cracks in her mental walls, glimpses of her childhood, memories of her training, but nothing useful. Nothing that would help the Zephyrians attack Earth. Other aliens began to gather in the torture chamber. Word had spread through the ship about the human who could not be broken. Soldiers and officers came to see the impossible sight. A small human female enduring torture that would kill most of their own kind. Some of the younger Zephyrians looked confused. They had been taught that humans were weak creatures, easy to conquer, simple to control. But this human was proving them wrong. She was showing them something they had never seen before. The power of the human spirit. Lisa began to recite poetry between screams, old verses her grandmother had taught her. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep. And miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. The words confused the aliens. They did not understand why she was saying them. But Lisa knew. The poetry gave her strength. It reminded her of home, of the people she was protecting, of the promises she had made. Vex tried everything. He increased the power of the torture machines until they were red hot. He injected her with new chemicals that made her skin feel like it was on fire. He brought in sonic devices that could shatter bones with sound waves. Nothing worked. The human refused to break. Perhaps we should kill her, suggested one of his officers. She is obviously defective. Her mind is too damaged to be useful. Vex considered this. Part of him wanted to end the human suffering, but another part was fascinated. In 30 years of conquest, he had never met a being like this. She was teaching him something about courage that he had never understood. No, he decided. We continue. This human has secrets. I will find them even if it takes days. But deep in his mind, Vex was beginning to realize something disturbing. The human was not just resisting their torture. She was defeating them. Her refusal to break was making his own soldiers question their beliefs about human weakness. She was becoming more dangerous as a prisoner than she had been as a pilot. The neural implant continued its work. Its signal reached across space, carrying Lisa's exact location. Earth's most powerful computers calculated her position. Admiral Morrison's fleet changed course and increased speed. Help was coming, but it would take time. Lisa held on to that hope. She endured the pain. She maintained her mental barriers. She bought precious minutes and hours for humanity to respond. Her body was breaking, but her spirit remained unbroken. She was proving that some things were stronger than torture. Some things were stronger than death. The alarm that suddenly screamed through the Zephyrin ship was different from any sound Lisa had heard before. It was a deep wailing noise that made the metal walls vibrate. Emergency lights bathed the torture chamber in red shadows. The machines that had been torturing her for 6 hours suddenly went quiet. Commander Vex spun around to face the communication console. His multiple eyes went wide with shock. What is that alarm? Report. The voice that crackled through the speakers sounded panicked. Commander, we have a massive contact on long-range sensors. It appeared out of nowhere directly behind our fleet. The signature is unlike anything in our databases. Vex rushed to the main display screen. What he saw there made his blood run cold. A ship had materialized in space behind his 5-vessel raid group. But calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a rock. The human vessel was enormous. It was 3 times the size of his flagship and bristled with weapon systems that looked like they could crack planets in half. The hull was dark gray with Earth Defense Force markings along its sides. Blue energy pulsed through channels cut into its armor plating. Massive gun turrets tracked his ships with mechanical precision. Fighter bays along its flanks were already opening to release swarms of small attack craft. How did they find us? Vex whispered. We are 50 light years from their nearest base. It should have taken them days to track our location. Lisa managed to lift her head despite the pain. Through her swollen eyes she could see the display screen. A smile spread across her bloody face. The U's vengeance had arrived. Admiral Morrison had received her signal. Earth had not abandoned her. The communication system crackled to life. A human voice spoke in perfect Zephyrian language with calm authority. This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the United Earth Fleet. You are holding one of our people. You have exactly 30 seconds to release her and surrender yourselves for questioning. If you refuse, we will consider this an act of war. Vex stared at the screen in disbelief. How do they know our language? How did they find us so quickly? This is impossible. But even as he spoke, more contacts appeared on the sensors. Human destroyers and cruisers were dropping out of hyperspace all around his position. His small raid group was surrounded by an entire battle fleet. Ships that moved with coordination and purpose. Ships that had been waiting for this moment. Lisa laughed despite her pain. The sound was weak but filled with triumph. Did you really think we would send scouts out here without backup? Every ship in the fleet has a neural implant transmitter. You've been broadcasting my location for the past 6 hours. The truth hit. Vex like a physical blow. The human had not been trying to resist interrogation. She had been buying time. Every second of torture had been a delay tactic. She had endured unimaginable agony not because she was broken but because she was giving her people time to mount a rescue. You knew, he said slowly. You knew they were coming all along, Lisa nodded weakly. The implant activated the moment you captured me. Earth Command has been tracking your every move. They know exactly where you are and exactly how many ships. You walked into a trap. The tactical display showed the full scope of the human response. 12 heavy cruisers formed a battle line facing his ships. Fast attack vessels moved to cut off escape routes. The massive dreadnought used vengeance held position like a predator waiting to strike. His 5 raiders were completely outmatched. Vex's communication officer reported in a shaking voice. Commander, the humans are jamming our hyperspace engines. We cannot escape. All our ships are trapped. Admiral Morrison's voice came through the speakers again. Your time is up, Commander. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is your final warning. Vex looked at Lisa strapped to the torture chair. Her body was broken, but her eyes burned with defiance. She had endured 6 hours of the worst pain his species could inflict. Not because she was weak, but because she was buying time for this moment. The moment when humanity would show the galaxy what happened to those who harmed their own. How long? He asked quietly. How long have you been transmitting our location? Lisa's voice was barely a whisper, but every word was clear. Since the moment you captured me, every second you spent torturing me was another second for Earth to prepare. You thought you were breaking me, but I was just stalling for time. The weapons officer at the tactical station called out urgent readings. Commander, the human dreadnought is powering up its main guns. Energy readings are off the scale. I have never seen weapons that powerful. Vex realized with growing horror that his entire raid had been turned into a rescue operation. The humans had not stumbled onto his location by accident. They had been guided here by the woman he had been torturing. Every moment of her suffering had been calculated to give her people the advantage. Open a channel to the human fleet, he ordered. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the main screen. He was an older human with gray hair and cold blue eyes. Behind him, Lisa could see the bridge of the Vengeance filled with officers preparing for battle. The Admiral looked directly at Vex with the gaze of a predator. Commander, I am Admiral Jack Morrison. You are holding Commander Lisa Grant of the Earth. Defense Force, release her immediately and surrender your vessels. You have 60 seconds to comply. Vex felt something he had never experienced before, fear, real fear. Not of death, but of the implications of what he was seeing. If humans could endure torture for hours just to buy time for rescue, then what else were they capable of? How could his people conquer a species that turned suffering into strategy? Admiral Morrison, he said slowly, your officer has been very resilient. But surely you do not wish to start a war over one person. Morrison's expression did not change. Commander, you clearly do not understand human nature. We do not abandon our people, ever. We will cross the galaxy to bring them home. We will fight entire fleets to protect a single life. And we will make anyone who harms our own regret the day they were born. The tactical display updated again. More human ships were arriving every minute. The rescue fleet was growing into an armada. Lisa realized that her capture had triggered something massive. Earth was not just sending a rescue mission. They were sending a message to the entire galaxy. Vex looked at his officers. They were all staring at the screens with expressions of shock and fear. The humans had turned a simple raid into a demonstration of power. They had shown that attacking Earth citizens meant facing the full wrath of human military might. What are your terms? Vex asked quietly. Morrison smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You release Commander Grant immediately. You surrender your ships and submit to questioning. And you carry a message back to your empire. Tell them that humanity remembers. We remember our friends and we remember our enemies. Choose wisely which one you want to be. Lisa closed her eyes and felt relief wash over her. The pain was still there, but it no longer mattered. Her people had come for her. Her sacrifice had not been in vain. The neural implant had done its job. Perfectly. Earth had received her signal and responded with overwhelming force. The torture was over. The rescue had begun. And the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you made humanity angry. The battle began without warning. One moment space was filled with tense silence, and the next moment it exploded with weapon fire from dozens of ships. Commander Vex had made his choice. Instead of surrendering, he ordered his fleet to attack the human rescue force. It was the last mistake he would ever make. The UE's vengeance opened fire first. Its main guns launched bolts of blue energy that lit up the darkness like miniature stars. The plasma beam struck the lead Zephyrian raider and tore through its shields as if they were paper. The enemy ship's hull split open, spilling atmosphere and debris into space. It was destroyed in seconds. Admiral Morrison's voice echoed through the communication channels. All ships engage the enemy. Weapons free. Show them what happens when they harm our people. The human fleet moved with deadly precision. Each ship knew exactly what to do. They had trained for this kind of battle for years. Fast destroyers darted between the larger vessels, launching torpedo salvos. Heavy cruisers formed battle lines and poured fire into the Zephyrian ships. Fighter squadrons swarmed around the enemy vessels like angry wasps. Lisa felt the ship shake as weapon fire struck its hull. The torture chamber's lights flickered and went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red shadows. The machines that had been torturing her finally went silent. For the first time in 6 hours, she was free from pain. She tested the restraints holding her to the chair. The metal bands were electronic locks controlled by the ship's computer system. But the battle damage was causing power fluctuations throughout the vessel. She felt the locks on her left wrist loosen slightly. Commander Vex was shouting orders at his bridge crew, but his ship was falling apart around him. Human weapons were more advanced than anything in the Zephyrian arsenal. Their energy shields collapsed under the assault. Their armor plating melted like ice in a furnace. 3 of his 5 ships were already destroyed or crippled. Return fire, he screamed. Target their command ship. Destroy the big one. His remaining vessels turned their weapons toward the UES Vengeance. Green energy beams lanced across space toward the massive human dreadnought, but the shots bounced harmlessly off its shields. The human ship was protected by energy barriers that could withstand anything the Zephyrians could throw at it. Lisa worked frantically to free herself from the torture chair. The power fluctuations were getting worse as the ship took more damage. She managed to slip her left hand out of its restraint. Her fingers were numb from hours of restricted blood flow, but she forced them to work. She reached for the control panel that operated the other locks. The ship lurched violently as another human weapon struck home. Lisa was thrown against the side of the chair. Pain shot through her damaged body, but she ignored it. She had endured 6 hours of torture. A few bruises were nothing compared to that. She found the release mechanism and pressed it. The remaining restraints snapped open. For the first time in hours, she was free to move. Her legs were weak and shaky, but she forced herself to stand. She had to get out of this chamber. She had to find a way to help the human fleet. The corridor outside the torture chamber was filled with smoke and sparks. Zephyrian crew members ran past her carrying damage control equipment. They were too busy fighting for their lives to pay attention to one escaped prisoner. Lisa stumbled through the chaos looking for a computer terminal. She found one in an empty storage room. The screen showed a schematic of the ship's internal systems. Lisa had studied Zephyrian technology during her military training. She knew how their ships worked. More importantly, she knew how to sabotage them. Her fingers moved across the alien controls. She accessed the ship's power distribution system. The Zephyrians used a centralized power core that fed energy to all their major systems. If she could overload that core, the entire ship would be crippled. Another explosion rocked the vessel. The lights went out completely. Lisa worked in darkness, using only the glow from the computer screen. She rerouted power from the life support systems to the main reactor. The computer warned her that this would cause a dangerous overload, but she ignored the warnings. Meanwhile, the battle outside was turning into a massacre. The human fleet had surrounded the remaining Zephyrian ships and was methodically destroying them. Admiral Morrison coordinated the attack from the bridge of the UES Vengeance. His officers worked with calm efficiency. They had done this before. "Target the command ship," Morrison ordered. "Disable their engines, but try to keep the hull intact. We need prisoners for questioning." The Vengeance's secondary guns fired precisely aimed shots at the Zephyrian flagship. The beams struck the engine section, causing massive explosions. The alien ship's power core fluctuated wildly. Its weapons fell silent. It began to drift helplessly through space. Commander Vex felt his ship dying around him. Half his crew was dead or injured. His weapons were offline. His engines were destroyed. The human fleet had defeated his raiders in less than 20 minutes. It was a complete and total victory for Earth. But the worst part was the knowledge that it had all been a trap. The human female had endured hours of torture just to guide the rescue fleet to this location. She had turned his moment of triumph into his ultimate defeat. The prey had become the predator. Lisa finished her sabotage work and made her way toward the ship's docking bay. If human boarding parties were coming, she wanted to be there to meet them. She stumbled through corridors filled with emergency lighting and the moans of injured aliens. The ship was a floating wreck. She reached the main docking bay, just as the first human assault shuttle attached itself to the airlock. The bay doors exploded inward as Earth Marines blasted their way inside. Soldiers in powered armor poured through the breach carrying advanced weapons. They moved like a well-oiled machine. Clearing each section of the bay with professional skill, Lisa raised her hands and called out, "Friendly, Commander Lisa Grant, Earth Defense Force." The Marine squad leader lowered his weapon and ran toward her. "Commander Grant, Admiral Morrison sent us to get you out of here. Are you injured? Do you need medical attention?" Lisa looked down at herself. Her uniform was torn and bloody. Her skin was covered in burns and cuts from the torture. But she was alive and she was free. "I'll live, Sergeant. But we need to secure this ship. I've sabotaged their power core. It should be completely disabled." More human forces flooded into the ship. They captured surviving Zephyrians and secured critical areas. Medical teams rushed to treat both human and alien wounded. The operation was smooth and professional. Earth's military had learned how to fight and how to show mercy. Admiral Morrison arrived on the flagship an hour later. He found Lisa in the medical bay receiving treatment for her injuries. Despite everything she had endured, she was alert and giving a full report to intelligence officers. "Commander Grant," Morrison said as he approached her bed, "the entire fleet owes you a debt of gratitude. Your actions saved countless human lives. The Zephyrians will think twice before attacking our people again." Lisa managed a weak smile. "Just doing my job, Admiral. Though I have to admit the rescue was perfectly timed." Morrison's expression grew serious. "The neural implant worked exactly as designed. Your signal guided us here with pinpoint accuracy. But the real victory was your refusal to break under torture. You showed the galaxy what humans are made of." Over the following days, news of the rescue spread throughout known space. The story of the human who endured 6 hours of torture just to buy time for rescue became legendary. Other alien species began to reconsider their opinions about Earth's military capabilities. The surviving Zephyrians were returned to their homeworld along with a message from Earth Command. Humanity was peaceful but not weak. They would defend themselves and their people with overwhelming force if necessary. The galaxy was welcome to test that resolve at their own risk. Commander Vex spent his remaining years in a Zephyrian prison thinking about the human female who had defeated him with nothing but courage and determination. He never understood how such a small creature could possess such incredible strength, but he never forgot the lesson she had taught him about the power of the human spirit. Lisa Grant returned to Earth as a hero, but she never spoke publicly about her ordeal. The neural implant technology was improved and became standard equipment for all deep space personnel. The torture chamber where she had suffered was preserved aboard the UES. Vengeance as a reminder that some victories came at a terrible price. The Zephyrian Empire sued for peace within 6 months. Other hostile species followed suit. The rescue at Proxima Station had established humanity's reputation throughout the galaxy. They were a species that would go to any lengths to protect their own. A species that turned suffering into strength and defeat into victory. The galaxy learned to respect and sometimes fear the people who had made torture into triumph.